What's up, guys? I'm Nick.
And I'm Zach.
And we are Supermoon Studios. This is going to be our year in review video. Over the course of 2020, we filmed about 6 short films. We filmed 2 music videos, and we did a lot of photography. We went out there and kind of did everything we could during the pandemic. So this is just going to be us going through our short films. We're going to talk about what went right, what went wrong, how the writing process went, how our editing process went, and basically our favorite moments from this year. So the first film we did last year was called Frigid. It's a short little film that we did at my house, actually. Frigid kind of came as an idea from, we had an old freezer that we were getting rid of. We were giving it to a family friend, and when I was moving it up the stairs, it started shaking, and just like kind of the image of it shaking kind of creeped me out. And I was like, what if it was a haunted freezer? So I asked my mom if we could give it to them like a week or 2 late, and she said that would be okay. So we set it up in the basement, and we just kind of went from there. We got our buddy John to act in it. To write it was a little bit of a challenge, just because it is kind of a silent film. So it was just a little bit difficult to find like things for him to do. But the idea from just like his groceries disappearing kind of like jumped off of that, and we had some old space footage from Rascals that we did in 2019, which I kind of tried to incorporate into the freezer at the end there too. So all of it was just kind of a cool down project from doing Rascals, and it was just kind of getting some stuff out of our system and having a little bit of fun. We filmed the whole thing in one day. Zach was there. We did a lot of setups, and John brought a few outfits, and we just kind of powered through the filming from there.
Let's take a look at it.
Let's take a look. We had to cobble together all those groceries from stuff in my fridge. Also, this one was pretty easy to storyboard, because it was like the same 6 shots over and over again. So you want to tell them how we did the freezer, Zach?
So the freezer was a really simple, cost-effective trick. We got Nick's girlfriend behind there. She's rather small, so she's just shaking it, and it worked out great.
It's a trick. It's a little trick of the shot there. It's a little bit farther from the wall than it looks, just enough to fit one girlfriend. So this next shot I wanted to talk about too, about how we had to achieve this shot, which we both were on camera for this shot actually, and I believe, was I tilting and you were zooming?
Yeah.
To get it.
So Nick was slowly tilting the camera, and I had a focus puller handle that I velcroed around the lens. So while he's tilting, I'm slowly zooming in the camera, and he's trying to focus at the same time. It took a number of takes to get it right.
Several times.
Takes.
And poor no cardio John was running on that elliptical for a good like 15 minutes
until we had it right
at full speed. And yeah. I think he was pretty shot after that. But we got it, and I like how it came out.
Yeah, I think it came out really well.
Could have been smoother, but I think it came out the best we could have done, for
yeah,
sure.
I think a few more tries, we could have definitely got it even better, but I think for the sake of John,
yeah,
it's good for where it is.
I think John was dead, so... So if you guys can't tell, my mom's actually watching Shutter Island in the background while we were filming this. You gotta use what you have. So getting John with that comedic timing was that was definitely something we had to put together in that scene. Came out. I liked his timing. I don't know. I'm trying to say something.
There's really nothing to say till like the end.
Till the end, yeah. I mean, this is fun because we just kept the camera there and he just changed and then walked again. So, I mean, that's an easy. Same with this one. We just left the camera up and John just changed and then walked through again. I changed the coloring a little bit to make it look like it was a different day. And this is a trick. The freezer's actually pulled a lot farther away from the wall.
Kelly again with the shake.
With the shake. And the timing, which we had to get down like perfectly on that. Which I think John did a great job.
Getting the chains around the freezer was quite a project.
There's no way to fit them all. That's why
we cheated it.
It's a very close shot. There were no change. There was just that one chain.
Your brain does all the work on that.
So, and then these.
So these shots, we actually. So I had bought 2 of these Sansi floodlights. And so it comes with a remote for each of them, and you can change the lights. So that's what we use for this bedroom scene. And then for all the scenes where the fridge is like red, we put one just in the back of it, and then just hid like the cord, and it gave it a nice like kind of ghostly glow to it.
It's cool because we got to use these colors are actually practical, and then they were just touched up a little bit in the end to make them really like stand out. But that's really all we needed for it, which is what makes it really cool.
Yeah, it was a really just cheap light effect.
So. Those are my slippers that John wore for the whole shoot. He didn't want to take them off. And I like that we got the light on the door there. Doesn't look like that good of a shot, but like we had to set some stuff up for it. And then yeah, there's the light behind the fridge there.
And then we have for this next shot, we put another light in the fridge, so that way when he opens it up, it's a natural.
You see this?
Yeah,
this big glow here.
Big glow. There's just a light in the fridge. And it doesn't clash with the other light.
So that right there is some of the space footage. We did a cloud tank for my final production for college, and that's some of that cloud tank footage that's left over. That stuff's on here as well. We'll put a link for in the description if you want to check that out. We might do a cloud tank tutorial in the future, possibly. But we had a lot of leftover footage, so we kind of just spliced it in there. All I really had to do was I put some overlays of the freezer to get rid of the cord to make I basically just copied and pasted and scrubbed out the cord from the shot, and then I just overlaid the freezer footage on. I had to tweak it a little bit to look like but that's kind of all I had to do was just get the cord out of there and then put this screener over it. And then as for audio, all this music, we made all the music ourselves. I made it all in Logic, so this ending with all the screaming and stuff like that, that's actually me screaming over and over again a few times, and I did a little bit of pitch stuff to it, and I like overlaid it, and I did some monster laughing where I laughed and then put like a monster deep voice effect on it. So this whole sound design in this end scene is actually just me screaming into a microphone by myself. So it took a little bit to layer it all together, but it was literally just me and a microphone. So if you guys need to do something like this, there's definitely ways to get the stuff done.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah,
for a second?
I think that's a good shot to talk about. So we originally wanted John to get, or I originally wanted John to get all the way into the freezer to just, I felt like it added more to the effect, which is the shot that I used at the end, but I don't know if we have any footage of it. I'll splice it over this of him falling in. But he just kept falling in there and getting stuck in there. And so for this shot, we did use the shot of him doing basically a handstand in the freezer. And then we got him to go in a little bit further, and then we just shut the freezer door, and that's actually a separate shot there. So when you play it all together, it looks like he's going into the freezer, because he was in the freezer at one point, but kind of your brain fills in the gaps as soon as the freezer shuts. It looks like he actually went in there.
He got eaten by the freezer.
So that's really 3 separate shots, one where he went in a little bit, one where he went all the way in, and then just the freezer door.
Yeah.
So that was a fun one to put together. So that shot's fun because the slipper didn't we originally have Kelly in the freezer?
Yeah, she was in the freezer trying to toss it out, and then Nick was behind it trying to lift it up. But then we realized we can just reverse the shot.
So instead of me having to put both of my hands on it and pull it out, I just had to close it after Kelly threw it in. So we cropped it a little bit to get me out of there, but that's all it is. It's just Kelly threw the slipper in from the darkness, we closed the freezer, and then we just reversed it in post.
Really simple, effective trick.
So that's Frigid. I just made that in Photoshop and put some stuff behind it. That one was basically a warm up and a cool down project at the same time, because we were coming off of Rascals, which was about a half hour long, so that was kind of a bigger production we had to put a lot of work into. Frigid was kind of an easy little cool down project because it was in one house, only a few locations, based around one little set object. It was a lot shorter, and we filmed it all in one day. So I think that one came out really good.
Yeah.
And that one is one of our wins for the Hollywood Blood Horror Film Festival. We won back in June.
I think just lighting.
Yeah.
Just learning like how to practically light things.
Light stuff,
kind of
yeah.
Doing stuff kind of on the fly, because we were trying to figure out like how to make it look cool, but also with like just something inexpensive as this. And I think it worked out. Just kind of like putting the light in the fridge was just kind of an on the fly idea.
Yeah.
And I think it worked out really great. The shot where he opens up the fridge is like one of my favorite shots.
Yeah.
In, like the whole thing.
I like that you get all that light on his face. It looks like it's coming from somewhere.
And it doesn't clash with any of the other light.
And I think that's something too that we really had to work through for that was shadowing in your lighting and finding out where you actually need to put the light.
Put the light, yeah.
Not just like that the light needs to be there. I think just another quick thing was just kind of maximizing our time too, because we really just kind of set up those few shots and had John change out of all his outfits, and we were done with those shots. So I think that was a really good test of just maximizing the time we had. What we would have done differently, given more time, I would have worked a little bit more on the effects. I don't think they take away from the film at all, but originally it was supposed to be like fire in the fridge and stuff like that, and there was originally going to be a whole kind of ending sequence that had to do with hell, quote unquote, but we just didn't really have the time to do it. So I think that's it. But I might actually like how it came out better. One last thing I did learn from filming Frigid this year, I put together that whole Final Cut library and had it all on my external hard drive, but unfortunately I dropped it on our kitchen floor and it broke. So the Final Cut I had of Frigid is the Final Cut you guys are seeing. I couldn't do any more editing to it afterwards. I had just exported that cut that night too, so we were actually really lucky or we would have lost it all. So just huge tip, back up your data, make sure it's always in 2 places. Make sure it's always digital and physical, so if you do drop your physical copy, you can get it back digitally. Something I learned the hard way. I keep all our files in 2 places now. We have a bigger drive account now, thanks to Zach. So yeah, just make sure your data's in the right place. That was a challenge for Frigid because I didn't have a lot of tweaks I wanted to make, but any of the ones that I did want to make, I couldn't anymore. So because the whole library was gone. So I can't even go in and get those sounds or anything. So yeah, just be wary of your data and be conscious and make sure you have it in 2 places all at once. So the next one we did this year was Walter and Ella, which is titled on screen as Baby Doll. That one we entered in the Roger Corman first and hopefully last quarantine film festival that was run through Instagram back in April. So he gave the contestants about 2 weeks to put together a film, filmed and produced entirely inside your own home, only using the crew you had at your disposal, so family members or anyone that was staying in your household with you, and everything had to be shot on a mobile phone. So I actually had written this short originally for something else, and I decided to adapt it and make it a little bit shorter to just bang it out and get it done. It was probably the fastest we've ever written and done something kind of thing. I think I wrote it, and then within a few days I had to film it. So it was definitely a challenge. Zach and I didn't live together at that point, so I had to do everything in my own house by myself. No one could even see each other at that time. That was deep in quarantine. So it was pretty challenging, but it was a lot of fun to kind of put something together and actually have the time and energy to actually get all the shots that I wanted in a certain time frame. So to put this together, it took about like 48 hours, and then I did some VFXing on my computer afterwards, and I put it all together, and I got it in for the submission deadline, which was like April 30th or something like that.
Yeah, it was something.
So it was actually really cool. We put out Frigid on like the 20th, and then we immediately had another production out, which kind of motivated us to get the ball rolling even more. So yeah, writing it was, it just kind of came from just thinking about, I think we were talking about AI or something one day, and it just kind of sparked an idea where it was like, what if we're in a time of our lives where technology kind of is really useful to us and is really starting to help us out and starting to integrate into our lives, especially stuff like AI and Google Home and Amazon Alexa. So it's not super out of the realm of possibility to imagine the next 20 years where we still have people who have this prejudice towards technology, but they have to rely on it in their everyday lives. So that time is probably coming very fast, and that's kind of what this short is based out of. So we'll take a look at it. Oh, and so I guess just to start, this is actually my grandmother's house that I filmed this in, where my house at home where I lived with my parents we had our house, and then we actually had an in-law apartment on the back because my grandmother had moved in with us about 15 years ago now. About our grandma ended up moving in with us, so we had to add an in-law addition onto our house, and that's actually where I filmed this. That's why it actually looks like an older person's house. I didn't have to do a lot of decorating, just a little bit of de-decorating, because she had some flat roof stuff out there that didn't really fit the character.
Hello, hello.
So that's actually my
Good evening,
Bluetooth
Walter.
speaker.
How was your day?
Long lines at the supermarket. Too many people on the road. This fucking season brings out all the commies.
I'm sorry to hear that. Would you like me to begin making your dinner?
So I guess just to go over a few things really, really quickly. The costume I put together from just a few of my shirts, that's just a flannel and a dress shirt that I had, and some rosary beads I had from when I had to go to CCD back in the day when I was a kid growing up. So I tried to put together kind of an old person outfit. The glasses I have on my own, the hat itself I had kind of as a joke, and the white in my beard is actually baby powder. So all I had to do was take kind of a paper towel and douse it in baby powder and then puff it into my beard, and it gave me kind of an older look. And then as for the Bluetooth speaker, that's a Bose speaker. I just set it down as basically a set piece for the whole short, and in post afterwards I just made sure it was on a tripod the whole time. I had a little mobile Steadicam that I popped the mount off of that and screwed it onto my DSLR tripod. So I threw my iPhone onto that, set it up in all these positions, and just went through all the lines.
Been making your dinner.
Yes, please. The pot roast with the fresh asparagus, if you will, on the table by, let's say 5 o'clock. How's
That's
that
all my
sound,
grandmother's
Baby Doll?
mail.
Of course, sir.
And can you register Baby Doll as your new response activator?
I'm sorry, sir. I can't do that.
Never mind. Dinner at 5.
That's a Motion City soundtrack vinyl. And this scene is fun too,
Baby Doll?
because we had some leftover steak or meat or whatever in the fridge, and for the sake of time I didn't cook any of it because I was just going to be chewing it for the scene anyways. I wasn't actually eating it. So between these takes I would chew the cold meat and then spit it back onto my plate to make it look like there was still food there. So It was kind of a bad shooting process for this scene because I was just chewing cold meat and then like putting it back on my plate to make it look like I still had food there. So it's indie filmmaking.
Hey, baby doll. Ella.
Yes, sir?
Roast is overcooked.
I'm sorry, sir. The roast was
And that
prepared
is
at a
real
precise
whiskey.
160 degrees Fahrenheit, garnished with parsley and assorted spices.
Ah.
The roast should be cooked fully and should be tender and seasoned to your liking.
I'm telling you, woman, the roast overcooked. It's tough, it's flavorless, and frankly, it tastes like shit.
Sir, with all due respect, the roast was cooked to perfection. If I were to prepare another...
Did I say I wanted to slop again? Open your ears and listen to me, you stupid fucking box.
I actually want to
Roast
pause
whiskey.
just on that last shot when it shows from the side because I put Ella back in the scene in the background. I thought that was it's a very small short, but I thought it was a good world building thing because we see Ella on the counter and in the beginning, so the viewer could possibly assume it's the same device, but it's not by showing that shot and showing her in the background. I don't know. That's just something that I like that detail.
Shit, whatever you did to it ruined my fucking appetite. Just run me my bath to get this shit out of my sight.
Yes, sir. Right away. Fall detected. Would you like me to call the authorities? Vocal confirmation required.
Baby doll, please.
I'm sorry. Vocal confirmation declined.
So just quickly, all these noises that you hear when I fell and I slipped and stuff like that. So some of those sound effects were from Final Cut. Some of them were some that I recorded on my own. The slipping I actually had to do on my own. I had to bring my camera into the bathroom and get some audio recording of me slipping on something. But the bone breaking and stuff like that were just sound effects I found through Final Cut or free online.
Call an ambulance. Help.
Vocal confirmation declined.
Cool.
Do you want to talk about the process of making the voice and the text on the device?
So for the text for Walter and Ella for that little device, all I did was make sure that all of those shots that I got were still and on a tripod. So basically, once I had all of those, all of that steady footage, I just dropped it into Motion 5, and I masked over it with some like rounded rectangle shapes, made them black, and made them look a little bit shinier to make it look like a screen. And then from there, I took the text that I needed to write, so the lines that she was saying, and of course the little Ella logo on the top. I took that text and I just overlaid it, made it a little bit neon, made it that blue color, and from there it was just animating it. So the timing I had to go by the footage that I had, whereas the actual text itself, I used a text animator to have it write itself out, which you can find in Motion 5 or After Effects. There's little text animators that are in there that can help you. So all I really did there was have it fade in, sit for a second, and then fade out. Those are just 3 little animations I had to do there. It took quite a bit of time, especially because I only had 4 or 5 days to do this, so that took up about 2 full days of editing. Obviously, it could have been better, but with the time that we had, and with the submission itself, I think it came out pretty damn well. One thing I learned from this short was that, basically, working in Motion 5, working with text, I learned that even though you have all the time in the world and you're on a set, you still might not be able to get everything you want done, because that's just kind of how filming is. So, and one thing I would have done differently is I would have set up my camera a little bit more stable, would have made sure all those shots were perfect, because like I said, when I banged the table a little bit, tripod was a little bit too close and it kept shaking. I wish I had some way to kind of monitor that footage while I was doing it, but I did it all on my iPhone. Next up, we have When a Black Man Walks Home, which is probably like the bigger one we did this year, I'd say.
Yeah.
Especially because of the message behind it. This one was very quick to put together. We kind of had to think on our toes a lot. It was very timely, and I'd say even controversial when we put it together at the time. There was a lot of different messages running around the internet, and there was a lot of stuff going on social media.
It made some people mad.
it made a lot of people upset. And even now, our likes to dislike ratio on the short film itself on YouTube are still at like 50% each. But this is kind of something that we kind of felt like we needed to do, I think, just because there's just so much shit going on over the summer, and there was just so many people that had just the wrong information that they were putting out there, and there were so many people that were mad about the wrong information, and there were so many people that were expressing their emotions just the wrong way and just hurting each other, and it was just, we were kind of sitting there and we were thinking about our shooting schedule for the next few productions, and we were kind of thinking about what was going on in the world, and we really just thought we can't really do anything else right now. So that's where the idea came from. We do have a whole behind-the-scenes video for this short. We'll leave a link in the description. I'm sure the card's popping up right now, right there. I'm sure over there. I'm in the corner, aren't I?
Yeah.
So
It'll be over there.
it'll be over there. So if you guys haven't seen that, please look into that. And if you want to know more about the production, please look into that. But yeah, so that's kind of where the idea came from. The world was just kind of on fire.
Just to do something we knew wasn't going to change the world, but it was still kind of to get some kind of messaging out there, in addition to the kind of activism that we're already trying to do anyway in our own lives. This just felt like something we could do together. You know?
Yeah, it was like, what can we do right now? So this is kind of what we came up with. So writing it was pretty straightforward. I mean, the idea kind of spoke for itself as soon as we kind of had the conception. I put together a script in just like one night. I'm pretty sure it only took me about like 2 hours to sit down and write, and then I sent it over to you and Xavier, and you both kind of gave it a once over, and I think we tweaked like one or two things, and just made sure it was like authentic and felt good and felt like something everyone was comfortable with. And then we just kind of, from there, we got on set. I mean, we put together the set in about a week, and we got everyone together like the next week, and then we shot it, and I put it together. I had it done by like, I want to say the 6th of July, because there were some festival deadlines I wanted to get it in for. So that was very fast, especially because we had just gotten all our new equipment in, and we had never worked on it before. So it was like, what better way to get used to our equipment than to just make something? So yeah, let's take a look at it. I just wanted to point out that this was the first time we kind of came out. We had an intro. We kind of had some kind of brand behind us when we put this out, I'd say.
Something just a little more legit.
Yeah, I think so. And it looked good at the Mystic Film Festival.
As we talked about before, Maslow describes in his hierarchy of self-actualization the initial physiological needs have to be met.
Do you want to talk about the how you created this?
Yeah. So this intro was kind of tricky to get the timing right. This was actually in the original script too, which I think is cool, because I think there was like kind of a full scope of an idea behind the script, and I think it kind of came through basically what was written on paper. So putting this together, I just had to scale the video all the way out. To get the timing down, I had to actually clip it a few times, and that's hidden by all this scrambling that's going on. So I basically just had it scale up through keyframes. So I started it at 0, keyframed it to maybe 5%, maybe 10%, maybe 15%, and I had to time it myself that way. Once I got the timing kind of right, I actually exported it again, and then I put a speed ramp on it, so it would start to get a little bit faster as it was going. And then after that, I put the like bad TV signal effect on that. That's something that's just built in Final Cut that I threw on there, and I just tweaked it a little bit to make it get more clear as it came in. And same with the audio, I put a muffle modulator on that as well, and had to get clearer and clearer as it came in. This I just thought was kind of important for the production too, because I wanted to feel like we were kind of tuning into something, like this story existed somewhere and we were kind of just looking in on it from somewhere else. So I think this kind of sets that mood in the beginning. So that was kind of important to me. in the beginning. And something I thought was really cool is when we were at Mystic Film Festival, when it started like this, a lot of people started like leaning in and trying to focus on it. So I think it did kind of do its job.
It draws you in right away.
Yeah, I think
You're trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, what's going on? What am I looking at? So yeah, that's just how I did it. Just with some speed ramps, a little bit of scaling, and some keyframes, and then just a few more effects, and all that stuff is built right into every editing software.
Other than my suits, is there anything else? The human connections we've been talking about, self-esteem, self-respect, the mind's need to be accepted by its community. These all really don't come into play until your basic functional and security needs are met.
And that little speech there I actually recorded after.
But it is good that you recognize these things about yourself. It'll make it a little easier for us to start bringing you out of your shell more. I'm sorry we have to keep meeting like this in my home office. I would have hoped for us to be back at the main facility by now, but with the whole quarantine thing going on, this is just how we're probably going to have to meet for the time being.
So I guess just a few things. We've talked about the set design in the behind the scenes video. So if you guys haven't seen that, we talk about that a lot. But that's basically just stuff we had lying around the house, and that's my basement. So we just moved a bunch of stuff down to my basement. It took several days. It took a lot for the clutter. Those are some trophies from my childhood, some colored pencils, some
Various books.
Yeah, books. A lot of that schoolwork from when I was in college that we just kind of lined the shelves with. And yeah, just some stuff, that paintings from my grandmother's house again. So yeah, it was just kind of a bunch of shit that we just put together.
Made it look like it was just somebody scrambling to put an office together for, because they couldn't be at their main office, so they had to do a makeshift one.
Yeah.
So I think it worked out. I think it looks like something.
Which is kind of cool because like we had to do it anyways.
Yeah.
But then quarantine was happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it tied into two things at once, even, and we didn't even have to make it about that.
Yeah, it was a happy accident.
Yeah. So it was definitely something that worked out.
And how have these demonstrations, these displays going on outside, how have they been affecting you? Have you given them any thought?
So I guess like here we can talk. You want to talk about the lighting a little, Zach?
So the lighting was kind of a unique situation because we only had the one light bulb in the ceiling. So we set up...
Which was terrible.
It was also, yeah. So we set up these Christmas lights around the set, which also just kind of help with setting the scene in the mood, but
The
also
little
help light...
ambience.
Yeah. But we had two photography lights that we set up on the sides behind the camera, and I bought gels that are normally for a smaller light, not a photography studio light. So we just duct taped the gels inside the box. It didn't melt it because it's meant for hotter lights instead of fluorescence. So it changed the color of the scene, and that's how we lit. And then we kind of mixed gels to make different colors to make the mood just like right for the scene.
I thought that was the cool part, is where because they weren't big enough for the lights.
Yeah.
So, like, I think on one side it was purple and yellow, I think, or something, and you taped them together and you taped them to the box, and I think that gave it.
And the other one, I think we had like just orange, maybe a red in there too.
Yeah. So it gave this kind of dreamy look to the scene when we were filming it too. That like I kind of tried to pump up a little just in post, and that was kind of all the coloring I did in the scene because the colors were already there, so I just kind of amplified them.
And that's kind of like, we took that from like what we learned from Frigid, just to like evolve our practical lighting as much as we can physically, but also financially too.
I mean, why wouldn't I? Niggas been getting killed in the streets. The whole country's on fire. Someone's got to do something, right?
Yes, it does seem to be getting very...
And I just wore a suit jacket, and
Rough out there.
Xavier wore what he had on that day.
But I hope you won't forget all the work we've gotten done over the past
Free
few
costume
months.
design.
It's not hard.
Indulging in such reckless activities, surrounding yourself in an unsafe environment with unsafe people, It may very well set our progress back and leave you feeling vulnerable.
All due respect, Doc, I'm always vulnerable.
This is my favorite shot of the whole thing. Wait till it's over.
I would just hate to see you get hurt during all this. I think it would be best for you to just lay low and stay out of it all.
So that shot right there is probably my favorite shot of the whole short. It's something that again we like learned from Frigid that, and even Walter and Ella beforehand. I think even more so there that this was filmed at home again, so we had the time to actually plan out our shots for once. So, like I said, we got brand new equipment in, and we were kind of just spending a few days messing around with it and testing it and seeing what it looked like. So we actually had a full day on set, like, before that we just sat there and, like, framed stuff up. And I was actually looking through my footage and just deleting stuff and getting rid of old stuff. And the first few shots I had were the same shots we basically used in the short, just framed up practice shots from beforehand. So that's something that you can really do is just maximize the time you have, especially if you're alone and you're not wasting anyone's money. You go out there and shoot whatever you can.
Yeah.
Basically, just get comfortable. And so that's something that every shot in this was absolutely planned and absolutely meticulously picked out for a reason, and that's something that we don't normally have the time to do.
And especially when we get to it, the big one take,
The big
in the
one.
next scene after this.
Which was definitely a challenge. I think that was the perfect take. It goes from that first shot all the way to that second shot, and we have all that time in the middle. I think it helps us kind of introduce the viewer into the fact that we're going to be doing longer takes in this short, too. It almost kind of alludes to what's coming.
It's like a prerequisite to like what's...
Yeah. And I guess just quickly to touch upon the music, that was all made originally. We make all our own music. All the music you hear in this is going to be original. But this particularly was a little bit challenging to do because I didn't really know what direction to go in for scoring. So I kind of decided to do classical, more violins, make it very intense for the scene. But also, that guitar comes in over top of it to kind of have like a little bit of sweetness to it, which is something that I played over it. I had to find the kind of what I was looking for there. I slowed it down a little bit. I moved stuff around, and I think the sound design came out.
I hope you won't forget all the work we've
basically
done over the past
great for what we needed it for. I think we could have done a little bit more mastering and made it pop a little bit more, but other than that, I think that's something that I like tried to do was make sure that the whole scene was scored, not just a piece of it. So, and especially because there's no music until the last section of the short.
Right.
The whole next scene has no music, so
I'll try my best.
and that's just like a final cut sound effects. And this is just outside my house. This is my neighborhood. So
this was kind of like interesting to kind of orchestrate, because it's Nick on camera, and then
Good. How about yourself,
Kelly, she's holding the boom mic, and then I'm holding the light.
Okay.
So we kind of had to all work in unison
on my
to
way home
make
now.
sure everything was like lit, and that we could get sound, and that everything was
it's
like
right
in
down the block.
focus. And
So like every
gotta
single
back
piece
to
of this, we'll pause it. So like every single piece of this we had all worked basically in unison. We were kind of one unit as a 3-man crew, which was kind of funny, especially because Kelly running boom. She was strapped to me because we were plugged right into the camera. We were plugged right into the XLR port. So she was stuck to me, and then you were kind of stuck to me on the other side because you had the light. So wherever you didn't go, I couldn't see.
Yeah.
So we were kind of like smushed together as like almost a 1-man unit if you like taped us together. We talk about this in the behind the scenes, but we had all these shots planned out for the scene to kind of bring it together, and all the shots we needed to actually get that kind of emotional resonance from the scene. And I was looking at it that afternoon, literally the afternoon before we were shooting. We were just waiting for it to get dark. And I was like, I don't want to set up 60 times in the middle of the street. Why don't we just figure out how we can do this in one shot? So I do have a picture of the diagram.
Yeah, it's in the behind the
that
scenes,
we
but I'm sure we
used.
can throw it up here too.
It's in the behind the scenes. It's terrible with stick figures, but we planned out we're gonna start, close on worm, pull back, go through them, follow them, and then we just kind of followed them till the end. We planned out exactly what we wanted to do, exactly where we needed to be, and it was actually, I think it was a lot easier for everyone on set too, because
it took a lot to get it down, but I think in the long run it was easier.
It was a lot,
and it's another one of those things where it was a happy accident, the situation with doing the long take, but also having the singular light capture the whole thing. I think it really helps kind of drive home the point that this is like somebody's like kind of daydream or like nightmare of like what's happening, because it looks dreamlike. It feels like it's not
you don't
reality,
know where the light's
light is
coming from.
Yeah.
You don't know.
So it just really worked out that
there's a few points where we rack in and out, and it just feels like you're in someone's head almost, watching it happen.
Less structured than the previous scene.
Especially, and it was great for the actors too, because instead of having to have all their lines and say them over and over again through like 30 different shots, instead we really just rehearsed it probably like 5 or 6 times. Everyone got really comfortable with it, and then we just ran it. So the first half we got down pretty fast. The second half was a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, there's a little more choreography in the second half of the scene.
Definitely making sure that Worm didn't get hurt when we were all kind of scrambling, because that was, I mean, he's a big dude, so he's not gonna really get hurt from us.
And make sure like all the other actors aren't getting hurt, because they're taking falls and
I mean, at the end of the day, someone's jumping on someone else, and so it's
we don't have money for stunt coordinators, and
so just making sure everyone was comfortable and safe, and yeah, so that's kind of how we put the scene together. It was very fast. Roberto and Carl did a great job. Roberto, we only asked like days before we shot to be the cop. We were literally going to a record store, and we were like, "Hey, Roberto, you want to play a cop?" This first shot, that the police car is actually Carl's Kia Soul. I had to key out the Soul logo in post, so all I had to do there is I just took a black rectangle. I actually made it a little bit less than 100% opacity, because it looked a little bit shinier that way, and I just put it over the Soul logo, keyed it frame by frame, and in my opinion, you can't even tell it's there. So, especially that's something too that was really cool with this new equipment, is filming in like true black and true colors. It was a lot easier to do VFX on these shots, because the colors are kind of set in perfect white and perfect black.
Right.
So let's watch the rest of the scene.
Done. I'm sorry, is there a problem, officer? Is there a fucking law against walking or something, man?
Well, no. There's
and
no
Xavier
law
really
against
made it his own with how he spoke and how he moved and how he acted too. I really liked that. That's stuff that didn't quite jump off the page when you read it, but when you see him on screen, you really feel like he's there.
No, it don't fucking sound like me, man. I'm literally on my way home, bro.
Hey, take it easy. We can just get you in the car here, take you downtown to the station for some questioning.
Fuck, what the fuck, bro? No!
And then adding the heartbeat, getting inside his head, making it feel more dreamlike. The background kind of disappears.
We have a suspect resisting arrest. Suspect resisting in downtown.
No, I'm not!
Just like chop to frame there for when Roberto hits the ground, so he hits a little harder. That's a real flashlight we had. Carl just swung and missed. This looks a lot more intense than it is. It's really just Roberto and Carl had no power. If Worm wanted to break free, he could have. Let's make that clear. And so this whole sequence here was very challenging to put together, especially because it was in the original script. It was a little bit more showy in the original script. There was a little bit more to it, a little bit more dreamlike too, but it just didn't fit the tone in the end. So I found some of this campaign footage, some of this archival footage. I found it online. It was free to use to the public, so I grabbed some of it. And watching the footage was kind of hard, because it's pretty intense stuff, and it puts a lot of the stuff that's happening today into perspective. And that's why once we put the short together, we were thinking of dropping this whole sequence and just zooming out and coming back to Worm immediately and showing that it was in his head. but it felt like it was missing something. Like it felt like it didn't say enough, or there wasn't enough there, or there wasn't enough space to make you believe that Xavier was actually gone. But I think once we added this footage in, it kind of adds another layer to it, and it adds, like, not only is this what some people are experiencing and thinking day to day, it's been around for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And it's there's a lot of history behind what people are feeling now, and that's kind of the big point of the short, is like, people are feeling this and they're right to feel it because there's a lot of history behind it, and that's what's important, is all the history behind it.
It's to kind of put all of that in a visual kind of sense.
One of the biggest goals that, like, I particularly wanted to do, and, like, I think we wanted to do, is have, like, a production that if someone was trying to explain how they felt to someone, they can just point to something like this and say, you want to know how I feel? That's how I feel. So that's where this whole thing came from. And the music itself was actually pretty off the cuff. I wasn't going to use it originally. I was just kind of mashing keys on my keyboard, and then it just kind of fit. So. And so this other footage we used was from a friend of ours who had been to a few protests. We just asked him if we could use it, and he sent it over. He said absolutely. Before we get to the end, I just wanted to point out, putting together this sequence was a little bit deliberate. That footage that was sent over to us by our buddy who went to some protests, lining up those shots next to each other, using what we had, was absolutely what part of the production. So we didn't have perfect shots or anything that we needed, but matching up some of these shots together to have them really reflect each other. Like, one of my favorite images, and it might be very quick, but there's the women holding the sign that are like, "Keep Alabama White," and then we show the footage from nowadays, and most of the protesters there are white. And then especially those last few shots where it's this huge chaos, and there's dogs, and there's cops, and there's people screaming, and then we show someone's drumming, like in that other shot. You can hear it, and they're just walking, and they're peacefully marching. And I think that's just, I think finding the shots that worked well together, even from the little bit of footage we had, was very important to compiling all
to
this.
keep the duality of, like, then and now, but to also show the kind of the similarities.
Yeah. So having them all fit together.
Yeah.
So. And so just for this shot, I took some of that audio from the clips. I put some echoing and some muffling on it. I had to get louder and louder as we came out of Xavier's mind, basically. The police overlay of that police light, we originally were trying to do that practically, and we were even thinking of buying a small, like, police light to flash on him at the end. But then we found a tutorial online that was great, and we'll throw a link to it in the description if we can find it, about how to do that overlay. And it's a great video. Basically, all you do is there's a police overlay that the creator of the video made. They have it online. It's just this flashing light, red and blue. And all you do is throw it over your clip, change it into an overlay, and it basically does the rest of it for you, which is really cool.
And it looks incredible.
Yeah, it looks legit. It looks like, I remember showing it to Kelly's cousin, who's a police officer, and she was like, "Oh, wow, did you guys get a light?" And we were like, "No." And she was like, "That looks real."
Yeah.
So, I mean, we got approved.
Approved, yeah.
We
Yeah.
do talk about putting together the costumes as well in the behind the scenes, so we're not going to touch upon that there. But everything in the production was basically put together by hand. So,
Yeah, so if you want to know more about that kind of stuff and some other intricacies about making the short, check out the behind the scenes video for When a Black Man Walks Home.
How's it going tonight, sir?
this is just the same clip played over again.
I'm good, officer. And yourself?
And then Xavier just repeats himself a little bit more scared. Some people took that the wrong way at the end, but he is supposed to be scared. And this was supposed to be a little stylistic for the ending. And then this is all audio from the Birmingham campaign footage that we got. So, just to kind of tie it all together. It's very easy to do. Just attach the audio, throw it over your credits, and a little bit more atmospheric credits. And then the logo again. So I mean, I think we kind of talked a lot about what we learned on that. I mean, I think we learned most of the stuff we used for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Even. I mean, we learned time management, rehearsal, like strategies.
And then, like I told you, just the practical lighting. Just
The
where to
lighting.
put the lights and just kind of figuring out using the lights to set the mood and kind of like how much or even most importantly how little to have.
Set design was a big one. Set and costume design. I think
Yeah,
were
because
two
we had
big
never
ones.
really done anything like that
And-
before to this kind of like scale.
Extent, yeah, and I mean we had to we had to sew them together. Kelly helped sew them. We had to put the desks and everything together in the room. If we were gonna do something differently, I would want to do some sound mastering. When we were at the Mystic Film Festival, that whole chunk at the end is supposed to be loud and overwhelming, but they mixed their sound system that was the regular level, like that was baseline level. So the rest of the show was very, very low, so people couldn't hear very well. And that's basically just I didn't pay too much attention to sound mastering. It was something that we did all on our own, and we put together, and it kind of killed me by the end of the night. I didn't even really look into it. I wasn't too worried about it because to me stylistically it made sense. But I could see how having a cohesive production that doesn't dip too high or low is a big deal. So that's something we're trying to keep in mind moving forward. So next up is Up North.